Welcome back to Believers IS Academy. In today's topic of the day discussion, we will be discussing what's happening or the political unrest in the Madagascar region and another revolution, which is another Gen Z led revolution, which the world is currently seeing, has pretty much taken a top of all the news channels and almost all the editorials. Right, everywhere we are pretty much witnessing how Gen Zs are pretty much taking a step forward in organizing protest against the local political parties. So now this is also a very clear example to kind of show and understand that if the educated youth of the country or any particular region, or if that particular population who has tolerated enough, right, and they decide to take action, and what that action is going to look like is what we are presently seeing around the world. The first example was what happened in Nepal, followed by what happened in Morocco, and right now in the Madagascar. So if we see all of these three things, the trend is pretty much same. One is these are all Gen Z led protests, and second most important thing is this is against the political tyranny or the political authorities of that particular country. And third most important reason is with respect to the cause for which these Gen Zs are fighting. Right. So in this particular video, let's understand all the dynamics as to what's happening in Madagascar, what caused this political unrest, right? Pretty much everything about the video. So without any further ado, let's begin. So according to various news channels, we have been seeing what's happening in Madagascar, right? So the very recent one states that the Madagascar military has already seized power as president moves to safe place. Means the president has already moved out of the country, and he also has pretty much claimed that he will be, or he was threatened to be killed in his own nation. So hence he has eloped the country, he has ran away from the country, which is what the recent update that we have got. So hence it becomes very important to understand. So now definitely it's a question as to what's happening, right? What is presently happening? So this island nation Madagascar is pretty much going through a very tough tide, especially with respect to the political trouble that the country is facing. And the president of the country, Andry Rajoelina, has already moved out of the country, and also he claims that some military officers and politicians tried to assassinate him. Right, he actually went on live in his own Facebook channel, and then he also told people that he is safe but did not reveal where he is. Right, some reports even claim that he left the country on a French military aircraft, through though this is not confirmed. So I hope it is pretty clear as to how serious the issue is, because the president of the country is ran out of his own country, hoping that, or let's say with a threat or with a possibility that he could be assassinated anytime by its own people, or for that matter even the military, because the military, it even them, they took the side of Gen Zs, and now it's pretty much like a do or die situation in the country, and hence the president has moved out of the country. So even after the president dismissed his entire government, protests have not stopped. The situation became worse when soldiers threatened to take over the state TV headquarters, delaying his speech to the nation. So this is the very recent update as to what happened, and hence becomes absolutely important to be studied as to what is the basic reason or major reasons for this protest. So the reasons are very simple, and this is the trend that we have pretty much seen in most of the countries that we recently saw, be it Nepal, be it Morocco, right? So the trend is pretty much the same, because these are all due to a particular cause. And what is the cause? Because the first and foremost thing is the corruption, misuse of power by politicians. Second is the unemployment, poor living conditions. Third is lack of opportunities for the younger generation. So now obviously this is ultimately directly going to affect the youth population of the country, and it definitely makes sure, or it definitely triggers them to rise against the ultimate power of the country, which is vested in the hands of politicians. And these are the only reasons why this political, or let's say this Gen Z led protest have gone to this height. And in fact, they also believe that the same political leaders have ruled for years without improving people's lives. So this is also another important issue, because this is not just pertaining to Madagascar, and this is something which we can see in the entire world. And this is how the modern politics have shaped their leaders, right? Because leaders, they work for themselves. In fact, every time an election is coming up, let's say, and if that political party leader has to declare his property, so it is the utmost importance of the citizens of the country, or at least the citizens of that particular constituency, to check the total asset which was earlier declared by that MP, as to what is the present asset which he has declared over the period of 3 or 4 years of his rule, when he is probably standing for another election. So it is very clear and it is very obvious to know if the asset has improved very drastically, very exponentially, right? Alarming, in a very alarming rate. Then it is very clear, right? That which means that political leader is working for his benefit, probably his benefit and his family members' benefit, and anyone around his circle will definitely get benefited, but the poor people or the youth. So hence, this is what we have pretty much seen around the world, and Gen Zs, most likely these are the ones who get taglined saying that they are not serious, correct? They are pretty much ignorant about their surroundings, about their social life, etc. But this is an ironic condition. This is a very good example, an ironic example to state that this value added, this quality led the protest. I would say that this is a very quality led protest, because what is the agenda here? No political propaganda, or let's say nothing personal, but against certain evils of the society like corruption, misuse of power, unemployment, right? About the poor living conditions of the people, about lack of opportunities, right? So this is in a way the most utmost, or let's say one of the most crudest form of protest, and this being led by the Gen Zs, the most uh, talked about category of the society, the Gen Zs, right? So this is something very unique, right? So now, what is this Gen Z Mada movement then, right? Because most interesting feature, as we were discussing, is that it is led by Gen Zs, means the younger generation, roughly between 1997 to 2012. So what is this particular Gen Z Mada? So this youth movement is called the Gen Z Mada, and this has four different let's say key features, I can call, right? There are four key features of this Gen Z Mada, which is very important to understand, to know what or the nature of this Gen Z protest. First is that the social media. The major key feature of this Gen Z protest is the social media, which they are using as weapons, because people, especially the young people, are pretty much using TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, right? Various social media platforms to pretty much organize the protests, share information, and stay united. Another important feature is all these protests do not have a single leader. Mostly, they don't have a single leader, but the movement, right, doesn't is, or let's say, it is not centralized. It is pretty much decentralized, right? It doesn't have one political, or it doesn't have one single leader, but rather the entire movement is decentralized, meaning everybody is a contributor, right? Everybody is a contributor. So this is also another important thing. So this pretty much makes very difficult for the government to control or silence, because usually what does the government do? They catch hold of that major political leader, or let's say they catch hold of that particular leader of a particular group who is organizing the entire protest. But here, since the entire protest doesn't even have a single major, or let's say majority leader, this is also kind of very decentralized, and also is very difficult for the governments to even prioritize whom to curb and control the entire movement. So that is also another big reason why Gen Z protests have gone to this far. Next is the focus. What is the focus of this Gen Z protest? If you see, this focus is mostly towards the change. and they are least bothered about the politics, right? So this is also one important thing. So unlike traditional protests, these youth are not loyal to any political party, right? They are not loyal to any political party. They just want a new system that is honest, that is transparent, and that which assures them a great, if not great, at least a good future. So these are the changes that these Gen Z protests are mostly revolving around. Fourth one is the symbol, right? It is the symbol of a new nation, right? New nation. But here in this perspective, it is the symbol of new Africa, because the Gen Z Mada represents new digital and a fearless generation that is kind of questioning the old system. But however, the primary feature of the Gen Z protest is the symbol. It symbolizes, or it asks for a new nation which is inclusive in terms of how the benefits are being given, and also it is equitable in terms of how the resources are distributed to the people, right? And also it is pretty much questioning all the old systems, all the old age old systems, right? So this is why the Gen Z protests have kind of become exceptional. So this shows that Gen Z's across the world, from Nigeria's and we have heard this, and SARS to Sudan, and now to Madagascar. It is pretty much witnessing, or let's say Gen Zs are pretty much saying that they are not afraid. They are not afraid to speak up, right? They are reshaping the entire politics through social media and peaceful movements mostly, but of course, we have seen few exceptions also. Anyway, so this is what is the Gen Z Mada movement all about. So now let's understand what are the implications, the international and also the regional impacts. First is the global concerns. For example, countries like France and the US are watching the situation closely but have not taken any sides, because it is going to be very difficult to take sides on any of the perspectives, because if you try and analyze the kind of agenda that these Gen Zs have, or let's say what are the reasons why they are fighting or why they are leading a protest. If you see, all of these things are very genuine, correct? And for any superpowers like US or France, it's going to be very difficult to take sides. And if they take sides, these super nations becomes very accountable, right? And they have to justify their stance as to why they had to take side of the government, or why they have to take side of the Gen Z, correct? Because now if they have to take side, or let's say if they have to fall on the Gen Z side, which means they have to pretty much make sure that the similar situation doesn't happen in their own country. So hence they have to make sure that all the policies are inclusive, equitable, correct, to the people. And if they are taking sides on let's say the government side, the Madagascar government side, then obviously the Gen Zs in these two countries will definitely erupt, right? So in fact, it is kind of very difficult for both of these nations, in fact, all the superpowers, to take sides. So that is with respect to the global concerns. And talking about the regional stability, Madagascar lies near important Indian Ocean trade routes. So any instability here could affect the trade and regional security, obviously, right? So Madagascar, if we see, we have Africa and then we have Madagascar here, pretty much in the Indian Ocean. So this instability in the Madagascar region will obviously affect all the trade routes related to Africa and India. So that is also one of the aspect from the regional stability that we have to keep in mind. And talking about the colonial sensitivity, the reports of the French military helping Rajolina are true. It could trigger anti-colonial anger, as France was once Madagascar colonial ruler. So this is also another interesting dimension, right? Anyway, all those things are pretty much happening, and it is at most an emergency situation for the leaders globally to decide whom to stand for. Is it the government, or is it the Gen Z representing the people, or all the voiceless which now have gotten the voice from the Gen Z? So now it's a do or die situation, or probably it's like a 50-50 situation for the governments around the world. And in fact, considering all the concerns that this holds, right? Even it affects globally, regionally, right? It is also high time that the governments pretty much do something very effective to make sure that the people, or let's say their Gen Zs in their country, does not come up with another protest like this, right? So the crisis in Madagascar is more than a power struggle between leaders. It is a generational clash between an old political order and a new digital age youth demanding for a better future, because they are simple and they are literally asking for the least is the better future, and just the proper implementation of all the necessary policies which are being formulated by the government. And all they need is proper implementation, and all they need is fair share in the opportunities, right? Fair share in the employment roles, right? In fact, opportunities covers everything, so it is all about fair share and the rightful implementation of these political parties. So Gen Z's in Madagascar is pretty much showing that real power now lies not just in the political offices, but in the hands of the connected, informed, and courageous young citizens who are ready to rewrite their nation's story. I hope you have pretty much understood what is the agenda of this particular video. So anyway, we will come back with another video probably if we get an update on this. This is all for now. Signing off, this is Madan Gopal. Have a wonderful day.